One of the big cases in the news, of course, right now is 23andMe. So 23andMe has announced that hackers have access data at this point of up to 7 million users, which is shocking. And one thing that's important to understand is that it's not that 23andMe themselves was directly hacked, right, Matt? This happened because a certain subset of users was hacked, and those users are connected to other users. And however, times are changing. 3, 4, even 5 years ago, if a large number of users had their accounts hacked, that would be viewed as a user problem. And now the company themselves ends up in the news because of it. So that's a really important change, that you could end up being liable if your customers are using passwords that have been stolen or that are weak. So here's what's happening. The genetic information stolen from 23andMe is now for sale, and you can change your credit card number, but you can't change your genetics. Once it's out there, it is out there. Here you can see hackers are offering 100 profiles for $1,000, 100,000 profiles for $100,000. They're making some good money off of this. And Matt, I know we were talking earlier, we're also starting to see them create data products, right? They're offering sets of data that are specific to certain ethnicities. And so that's something that I think is also going to be a trend, where the hackers are now mining that data and starting to sell products that are useful for different types of entities.
It's a strange new twist in what we would normally consider to be a personal data breach. We don't normally think about someone stealing our genetic information as being in that kind of realm. But as it turns out, that is a very valuable product for quite a few reasons.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the lawsuits shake out on this one. So again, all of this started with credential stuffing. 23andMe has been very clear that they weren't hacked, the accounts were hacked. And that is a really important point. So what is credential stuffing? Of course, it's been a trend the past few years. Criminals steal your passwords, or they buy them from the dark web, often in bulk. So for example, the LinkedIn database with 164 million stolen passwords, these are taken from LinkedIn, that is circulating around the dark web, often available for free. At LMG, we actually use it sometimes in our penetration testing to see if passwords are publicly available. So it's very freely accessible to hackers. And then they can take those passwords and try to log into 23andMe or try to log into your online banking. And often when people change their passwords after a breach, number one, they make them weaker. Some studies have shown that that's the case. Or you might just add like a 1 or a number, or change spring to summer or something like that. And hackers have automated tools that will try variants of these stolen passwords as well. So that's how credential stuffing works. They have automated tools to do that. And as a result, they were able to get into about 14,000 23andMe customer accounts. Okay, so Matt, why don't you walk us through how exactly the hackers stole millions of customers' data from 23andMe, and then we can talk about some of the ripple effects of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad we get to dive back into this, because it really does showcase kind of what kind of risk you were putting yourself under when you are using these online services and not following just basic good password hygiene. Initially, hackers were able to break into, using stolen, weak, or reused credentials, about 14,000 accounts inside of the 23andMe system. Now, that by itself is pretty bad, but there is a linked DNA relatives feature that's available inside of the 23andMe app, and there are other lineage applications that offer something similar to this. Using that feature, they were able to expand from that 14,000 account initial hack out into millions of other accounts. And this was what really led to the loss of all of this data. Hackers actually began targeting very specific lineages inside of 23andMe as their initial targets. And of course, this blew up into basically trying to get everyone they possibly could. But initially, they came out on hacker forums with the data of about 1 million Ashkenazi Jewish heritage members as a specific target. They then went on to target about 300,000 Chinese members of the application. And then, of course, they cascaded downward from there. You can see celebrities, you can see people from all around the world at this point. But this is really how it started. Now, because of this, there have been some changes to 23andMe's policy. Of course, they are potentially in the midst of a class action lawsuit over this data loss at this point. And because of that, or potentially because of that, there's not a direct attribution here, their terms of service actually updated recently. So they did a couple of things. They changed their dispute period from 30 days up to 60 days, and they added a rider into their end user license agreement that pushes any litigation against them into small claims court. This means that you wouldn't really be able to file a class action lawsuit against them. This also means that disputes are conducted privately with 23andMe. You have to go through their arbitration process. but you're not locked into this. As with many other end user license agreement updates, you've got 30 days to opt out of this and still be under their old system of license agreement rules. But it is something that we'll see as a change moving forward with probably not just them, but other organizations that handle this kind of data moving forward.
Thank you so much, everyone. Again, this is Sherry Davidoff, CEO of LMG Security.
And I'm Matt Duran, Director of Training and Research for LMG Security. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out at any time. We would love to hear from you. You can reach us at info@lmgsecurity.com, find us on LinkedIn, or follow us on Twitter. Thanks again for joining, and we'll see you next time.